Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we're going to look at longtime legendary British blues rock act 10 Years After. Okay, a band that burst on the scene back in 1966, 1967, had a string of best-selling albums, then broke up for many, many years, got back together, hung around a bit, broke up again. Their main guy, Alvin Lee, the guitar player, wound up leaving. He eventually passed away. They've been since continuing on without him. All right, a little bit different lineup, but the core of the 10 Years After band, of course, consisting of Chick Churchill on keyboards, Rick Lee on drums, of course, Alvin Lee on guitar and vocals, and Leo Lyons on bass. So that basically makes up the classic lineup of 10 Years After. All right, so basically what I'm going to do, I'm only going to look at the albums featuring that classic lineup. Okay, I've got one of the more recent albums, A Sting in the Tail, their last release from a few years ago, but there's a couple in between that and their 1989 release that never heard. So I'm not going to include those. I'm just going to go with the original albums, okay, featuring the original band. I'm going to rank it from my least favorite all the way to my favorite. I will say, as I've said many times doing these shows, that these are some really strong albums, and there's really not much separating any of them, and especially like the top 4 or 5, my order could change weekly, because there's really not much separating them at all. So curious to see what you guys think as well. So remember, in the comments and feedback below, list your favorites, rank them in the order you want, okay, your top 5, your top 10, however you want to do it, and your reasons why. Remember, we all hear these albums differently. We all like them differently for different reasons, so there's no right or wrong answers, so please respect everybody's opinion. All right, so I'm going to start off with number 9, so we're talking about 9 albums in total here. I'm going to go with About Time, which was their kind of comeback album from 1989. So again, there's the original guys there. You know, a pretty strong album. I always thought when I first got this back in the day, I was happy to hear them back, right? But this to me sounded kind of like an 80s ZZ Top album a little bit. Kind of, 10 years after, in the 80s, bluesy rock, kind of shiny, kind of sparkly, all right? Missing a little the grittiness from some of those early albums from the late 60s, early 70s, but I still think a pretty solid record, okay? Highway of Love, Let's Shake It Up was kind of their little radio hit here. Victim of Circumstance is pretty cool. Bad Blood, Working in a Parking Lot. I think they kept the kind of fun nature of a lot of the 10 Years After material from yesteryear, but obviously much more modern. So this would be the last studio release we would hear from the original band. All right, so that's going to come in number 9 for me. Coming in number 8, I'm going to go with Positive Vibrations. Okay, pretty strong album, actually. This is from 1974, so this would be the last album before their breakup. Okay, Alvin Lee would, of course, go on to do some solo stuff 10 years later. Yeah, Alvin Lee was very, very busy. He kind of kept in the public eye. The rest of the guys, not so much, right? But this is, again, a pretty fun record, I think. Title track is really cool. It's getting harder. Nowhere to Run. Going Back to Birmingham. Good kind of boogie rocker. Look Me Straight Into the Eyes. You're Driving Me Crazy. I don't know. Pretty solid album. Okay, pretty strong album to go out on. Not as successful as some of the albums that came before, but I still think pretty strong. So that's number 8. Coming in number 7, I'm going to go with their second album, Stonehenge. Okay, so here, you've got right around this time. So this was, was it 1969? So you've got the band, doing like kind of like the British blues rock thing, but there's also plenty of psychedelia going on here. Pretty strong album. This album is actually kind of mellow. There's a lot of jazz influences here too, and I think compared to the debut and the couple that came after it, a little laid back, but it has some really, really stellar musicality going on here. A lot of really good solos from the band. In fact, a lot of this album features like all sorts of improvisations, so that I've always found this album to be less about the songs and more about the playing. Okay, if that makes any sense. But there's some good stuff on here. You got Woman Trouble. You've got the incredible No Title, which is basically, again, a track featuring all sorts of improvisations by the band, very loose kind of jamming and stuff like that. Oh, we got Faro, we got a sad song, Hear Me Calling, Snoobly Oobly Doobob. All right, pretty cool little scat guitar thing coming from Alvin. I Can't Live Without You, Woman Trouble. It's bluesy, it's good, a little laid back, but it's okay. A strong album, I think. Coming in at number 6, we're going to go with Watt. All right, so I have this pretty cool collection called The Chrysalis Years, which has all those albums on 3 discs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to point out each of the ones here. So Watt is right there. Okay, so Watt is going to be my number 6. It's got the incredible I'm Coming On. Easily a top 10 years after song for me. My Baby Let Me Think About the Times. What else we got in here? The Band with No Name. Sweet Little 16. She Lies in the Morning. Solid album. I don't like it as much as some of the others that came before and after it, but I do like it. A couple really standout tracks. A couple that are, solid. All right. A good record. Coming in next at number 5, I'm going to go with their debut. Some pretty sizzling blues rock on here. Again, this is coming out of a time, this was, 1968? I'm thinking 1967, actually. Yeah, you got Cream and The Who and The Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Kinks and the Animals and all those other bands coming out at the time. There's some pretty sizzling guitar licks on this album. I Want to Know, I Can't Keep From Crying Sometimes is spectacular. Adventures of a Young Organ is very cool. You got, of course, their version of Spoonful, which is absolutely ripping. What else? Don't Want You Woman, Help Me. Good stuff. Good, mature album from a very young band. And you can already tell kind of the seeds of the guitar hero status of Alvin Lee fully visible throughout that entire album. All right, next up, coming in number 4. The top 4 for me, kind of hard to rank because I love them all so much, and they're all really, really strong for me. But coming in number 4 today, I'm going to go with Rock and Roll Music to the World, right up there. Okay. And, again, some standout tracks. I think most of these 10 years after albums, some people might say they're a little on the spotty side, but each one of them has like a handful of classic cuts. You Give Me Lovin' is one of the best stuff from this album. You got the title track. Convention Prevention is another really good one. All right. Turned Off TV Blues, another spectacular one. Of course, you got Choo Choo Mama, one of their signature live tracks. So, and the title track as well. So I think a very, very strong record. Always enjoyed it quite a bit. Coming in at number 3, I debated putting this higher, but in the end I decided not to. We're going to go with Space and Time. That's that one right there. Okay, always love that cover. Guys out in the grass. All right. Space and Time, of course, has their big hit, I'd Love to Change the World. Very cool tune. Kind of not very indicative of the rest of the stuff that they did, but a very, very cool song. All right, great guitar work, very catchy, a lot of nice acoustic stuff. Got Dogs Barking Up a Storm. Got One of These Days. Very, very cool bluesy rock tune. Here They Come. All right. Baby, Won't You Let Me Rock and Roll You. Okay. What else? Uncle Jam. All sorts of good stuff. A good album. Very solid album. A little more acoustic, I think. There's a lot of acoustic stuff going on that album. It's still very, very good. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with their third album, Shh. Okay, which is this one right there. Almost did that at number 1, but my number 1, I was like, yeah, I got to put that there. So from Shush, we got Bad Scene, Two Time Mama, Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, another signature track for them, easily a top 10 song. What else? The Stomp, and of course, I Woke Up This Morning. Boop, 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 boom, 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 boom. Killer stuff. Killer guitar tone, killer guitar playing, man. Alvin Lee, one of the best. Coming in at number 1, got to go with Cricklewood Green. All right, that's the bad boy right there. A killer track, Sugar the Road, Working on the Road, a lot of stuff going on the road. 50,000 Miles Between My Brain, another one of their classic, easily top 10 songs. All right, just very cool bluesy rock psychedelic masterpiece. Love it. Year 3000 Blues, great. Me and My Baby, Love Like a Man, another easily top 10 track from 10 Years After. Circles and As the Sun Still Burns Away. So pretty cool stuff. So let's recap the list. Coming in at number 1, Cricklewood Green. Number 2, Shh. Number 3, A Space and Time. Number 4, Rock and Roll Music to the World. Number 5, self-titled debut 10 Years After. Number 6, Watt. Number 7, Stonehenge. Number 8, Positive Vibrations. And number 9, About Time. A great band that, I guess there's probably a lot of people out there like, if you got the greatest hits, you don't need anything else. Yeah, you know what? I don't really agree with that. That's there's a lot of great songs on a lot of these albums. And if you just stick to the greatest hits set, you're missing out. If you just stick to one of the live albums, you're missing out because the live albums have like a handful of really great tracks and then lots of jamming and improv. So you're missing a lot of those other great songs. So for me, I don't know. It was well worth getting the catalog, right? And again, I'm missing a couple of those more recent ones. The very, very recent one is actually pretty decent. Okay, so the other two probably worth checking out. But anyway, curious to see what you guys think. Which are your favorite 10 Years After albums, and why? So while you're putting that in, also go visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. What's coming up, again, kind of a little slow based on what's going on here, but going to get back to doing some content starting hopefully maybe Sunday and whatnot. I am also going to work on, I know they don't have many albums, they only had 5, and most people have never heard of them before, but I did get a couple people requesting to do a ranking the albums for Tucky Buzzard, and I happen to like them quite a bit, so we're going to be doing that over the next couple days, as well as like a lot of the more, known stuff. Gonna working on a Camel one. There's so many guys. I'm gonna do a Kiss one because we've got a ton of people asking for Kiss. It's so funny. You get tons of people asking for Kiss, and then you get tons of people like, don't do Kiss, they're terrible. Well, I like Kiss, so I'm going to do a Kiss. But I am really only into like the 70s albums and a couple of the early 80s. I'm really not into the 80s and 90s stuff. I have a couple of more recent ones. They're pretty decent. But for me, Kiss is the classic stuff when the original 4 guys were in the band. Although I do like Creatures of the Night and, a couple other albums here and there, and Lick It Up is pretty decent. But so I'm going to concentrate on those early albums. And I'm going to give you maybe my top 10 favorite Kiss albums. That's how I may do that. Okay, I'm going to rank my favorites. So that'll be coming up as well. All sorts of other stuff. I know people have asked for Megadeth. I'm going to try and do Megadeth. Man, so many bands. My list is enormous. So for the few of you who have been saying, Pete, you've done so many of these, you're going to run out of bands soon. Not at all. I'm going to do the Allman Brothers. Got them coming up too. We got to tackle the Outlaws and Blackfoot, a lot of the Southern rock bands. All right, so a lot of that stuff is coming as well. So stay tuned. Your band will come if it's stuff that falls within my wheelhouse. All right, and a lot of you are requesting all sorts of stuff way off the beaten path that, in genres that I'm not really that into. So again, if you don't get a response from me, I can't respond to everybody and I can't cover every single band because unless I know them really well and have, if not all, most of their discography, probably not going to cover them. All right. So anyway, but stay tuned. All right. Enjoy this one. If you haven't listened to some of these 10 Years After albums, you really should. There's some really, really good ones here. So take care, guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.